So a couple years ago, I made a really controversial statement on Facebook. I said something along the lines of, college is useless for anybody who's in a remotely creative field. It caused quite the stir, and I got into like a couple social media spats with some of the people who were in my program at the time, and they really took offense to someone saying what you're doing is useless. So I proceeded to drop out of school a year and a half into my degree. Fast forward more or less 10 years, and guess where I am? Pushing 30 and back in college, right where I started. But instinctively, I'm still not convinced school will make you successful as a creative and artist. This is something that I want to investigate in this video. And I can obviously give you my 2 cents, but my 2 cents is worth just that, 2 cents. You know, there are people who study this for a living. And so I'll always try on this channel to give more weight to the work of people who you know, are studying this versus like my personal opinion. But I'll definitely give you my personal opinion. Let's explore it. Will school make you more successful as an artist? Fly! Some backstory. The roller coaster of school and why I dropped out of college. So I was that kid that professors said, you know, she's really smart, but she doesn't apply herself. And also I got in trouble a lot. My dad used to call me like, what's the word? Flippant. I would fall asleep in class constantly. I was constantly in trouble for being chatty. My social life in class when I'm supposed to be listening to the teacher was lit. And I was chronically late. I was constantly getting detentions for being late. I was kind of like just not engaged. I would only get involved when there was something called the duel dance. The duel dance was basically a dance competition. I would get the girls together and we would put together a little hip hop routine and then we would dance. And that's the most involved I ever was in high school at any point in time. Now we know that I had undiagnosed ADHD, which explains a lot of this. Like either I was into it or either I was not. And most of the time I was not. I only really started thriving when I got to CEGEP. So CEGEP is the 2 years between high school and college. And I think I really started thriving because you're treated like an adult and not like a child. You get to choose your classes, you get to choose your program, you get to make your own schedule. My schedule was sick. I think I went to school like 2 days a week. Like it was amazing. Then I moved on to college. I studied journalism at Concordia University in Montreal. For the first year, I do really well. I'm super interested, super stimulated. I'm learning all these new things and all these new skills. And then classic, I get bored and I start feeling oppressed with the structure of the program. Basically, what happened was that I was working while I was in school. I was doing a couple different things. I was writing for the student paper. I had an internship at a radio news talk station. I was also writing and an editor, listings editor for a local indie magazine. While I'm doing all this, I'm also actively looking for the next thing and looking for more work. My issue at the time with the program I was in and college was that I was doing all this work outside of school that basically school was training us to do. And I was already doing that work for money and I couldn't get any recognition for that work in school. There was a limit to the amount of independent study and credits I could get for independent study. This is internships and these sorts of work experiences in my program. It was capped at like 3 or 6 credits. So they just really made it complicated for the achievements I had and the work I did outside of school to be recognized and worth anything in school. Isn't school supposed to prepare you for the job market and for working? And if that's the case, if you managed to speed up that process and you're in school and working in the field that you're studying in, shouldn't that be recognized by the program you're in? And too often it's not. I was just like, this shit. And it was pissing me off. Not only is school busting my balls, but it's clipping my wings. But I have an opportunity right now to make money. People are starting to hire me to do this thing. So I'm going to hop on this wave and go all in on that. And so I dropped out. The creativity gap. So it seems like the experience that I had in college is not entirely uncommon. There's actually something called the creativity gap. And the idea is that because of the structure of schooling and the values that are needed for creativity that aren't necessarily present in schools, students aren't meeting their creative potential at school. The talent is there. Schools are just not tapping into it. And this study showed that students actually show more creativity outside of school than they do in school. And they call this phenomenon the creativity gap. What is creative potential? Creative potential is defined as the hypothetical level at which an individual could demonstrate maximal creative productivity or behavior. The idea is that creativity requires things like independence, autonomy, spontaneity, nonconformity, originality, questioning the structure, a desire for novelty. And these are just not the values most schools have. It's not how these institutions are set up. Think about it. You have hundreds, if not thousands of students coming through your doors every year. You need to have a curriculum. And unfortunately, it's just kind of logistically, operationally difficult to customize that for the needs and the situation, the unique situation of each and every student. And while we've all had shitty teachers, it's not even really the teacher's fault. It's just the way higher education and just education in schools in general are structured. Unless you're going to an alternative school, this kind of go at your own pace, study what you're interested in school, generally that's not what you get. And this is exactly what I experienced, when I'm achieving almost more outside of school than I am in school at the time. And what I'm doing outside of school is not compensated, valued, or recognized, or it is, but to a limit. So there's this gap. I had the potential, I have the talent, but I need to look outside of school for it to be exploited to its full potential. Not only this, this video is about whether school will make you more successful as a creative. In this study about the creativity gap, they also reference another study that was previously done. And it seems like there's no real correlation between academic and non-academic achievement. Just because you're good and you achieve something in school doesn't mean that you will achieve something outside of school. And just because you achieve stuff outside of school doesn't mean that you'll achieve something in school. There seems to be what they call a negligible correlation there. Also interesting. There seems to be something to that. I also found this article from ArtNet. I might be quoting this wrong, so I might just put a text over the screen to make sure that it's on point. But they basically surveyed their top artists, and this is like art. And it seems like school only makes a difference if you went to like the best school. School only made a difference if you went to like Yale. Every other MFA program seemed to have like no real impact on your success as an artist. So there does seem to be some hope though, because as I mentioned earlier, there are certain values that are essential to fostering and spurring creativity. And if you don't get to go to the best school, but you are able to find a school that values those values, then you'll be in a better position to reach your creative potential than if you're stuck in an institution that doesn't. So, if education doesn't seem to make a difference in your creative achievement, what difference does it make? And what does make a difference or factor into creative success, or at least influence it? The first paper I talked about, the paper that talks about the creativity gap, mentions that there are person-related traits and things you want to look for, such as whether or not you have creative personality traits, your attitude and the values you have towards creativity. These things have an impact. But they also talk about contextual environmental factors, which I also found some other research to support this. So we're going to talk about that in this video. Some contextual environmental factors that the first study mentions are, parental background, socioeconomic wealth, etc. So let's dive into that. Wealth. In order to be successful or reach your full creative potential, you first need to pursue whatever creative endeavor you're interested in. Quentin Tarantino would have never become a director if he never sat down and tried to write something. So before you can achieve something creatively, you first need to try it. You need to pursue it. And it turns out wealth plays a huge role in whether or not you will ever even attempt to pursue something in the creative realm. So I discovered a study through this article by an economist from the University of Southern Denmark called Carol Jan Baroki. She found that someone whose family has an income of $100,000 is 2 times more likely to become an artist, actor, musician, or author than a would-be creative with a family income of $50,000. Raise the annual income to $1 million and $100,000 respectively, and the stakes become even higher, with members of the first household nearly 10 times more likely to choose a creative profession than the second. Every additional $10,000 in total income or pre-tax earnings of immediate family members makes a person 2% more likely to enter a creative field. The idea is that there are many barriers and obstacles to thriving in a creative lifestyle, such as inconsistent pay, high barriers to entry. In order to make money as a photographer, well, you need a camera. These things aren't cheap. In order to make money as a graphic designer, you most likely will need one of the expensive softwares and practice before you actually make money doing it. These things aren't cheap. Unpaid internships, a lot of the times that's how people get their foot in the door. Well, you need to be able to afford not to make money for a while. And a lot of people can't do that. These challenges and these obstacles are a lot less risky for individuals who come from a family who can make sure that while they're doing all that, they don't actually starve. I wonder how many people are in that position of being able to just work as a creative, not because they're more talented than their counterparts, but just because they could afford to. What all of these success stories omit is the context. And I'm not trying to take away from the fact that you probably are talented and you do work hard, but I think that people need to be aware of the various privileges they've been afforded for humility's sake. So we don't need to deal with a bunch of people who actually truly think that they're in positions of power because they deserve to be or because they're better than someone else. Don't you think the world would be a lot better if people just acknowledge that, yeah, I am good at what I do, but also I was really lucky because of all of these other factors? I feel like those would probably make for better bosses to work for. But anyways, think about that. Class. So I'd like to make an important distinction here, which I think I've discovered, or at least this is what I've gathered from my research. There does seem to be a relationship between qualifications, a degree, and employability in creative fields. Employment does not equal to success or achievement. We'll talk about that later in the video. Just because you're employed in a creative role does not mean that you're creatively successful or have achieved your full potential as a creative. Keep that in mind. So while employment does not seem to equal success or creative achievement, class does seem to play a role in employment in creative fields and in your odds of upward mobility if you're employed in a creative field. There's a sweeping survey that was conducted in the UK that analyzed the creative industry there. I invite you to read it. It's called Getting In and Getting On: Class Participation and Job Quality in the UK Creative Industries. So let's start by defining class and the operational definition of what the three classes are according to this survey. For much of public discourse, class is an expression of personal or community identity. In parts of academic literature, class is a category that describes positions within the social structure, most commonly within the labor market. So the three classes are privileged, intermediate, and working class. Privilege is described as someone who had at least one parent whose job was a higher or lower managerial, administrative, or professional occupation. Intermediate is described as individuals whose parents worked in intermediate, lower supervisory, and technical occupations or were self-employed. Working class is described as individuals whose parents were employed in routine or semi-routine occupations or who were long-term unemployed. So I'll say it once and I'll say it again. I never thought of myself as a math head, but unless you're Marty Bird, numbers don't lie. And the stats, the data in here is insane. Insane in the membrane. The majority, 52% of those working in creative occupations in 2019 were from privileged backgrounds, compared with a little over 1/3, 37% of the total workforce. In contrast, just 16% of employment in creative roles were from working class backgrounds, compared with 21% of those in professional occupations and 29% across all occupations. Those from privileged backgrounds are 2.5 times more likely to end up in creative occupations than their working class peers. In 2019, just 4.4% of adults, 23 to 69, from working class backgrounds found employment in creative roles, compared to 10.9% of those from better off backgrounds. Employment in creative occupations, at least in the UK, has been booming, but the working class have not been the benefactors of this boom. Occupations in the UK in the creative industries have increased by over 300,000 over the past 5 years, but the number of creative workers from working class backgrounds increased by just 33,000. The discrepancies are even higher depending on the subcategories of creative fields you're in. So the privileged dominate publishing, architecture, music, performing arts, visual arts, as well as film, TV, video, photography, advertising, marketing, PR. The only place where the gap isn't as pronounced is in the crafts. Then, if you do get the job, class will play, or has been shown to play, a role in your upward mobility in these roles. Some long-term studies have shown that 1 out of 10 of those from working class backgrounds had progressed to non-managerial roles, compared to 12% from privileged backgrounds. And quite naturally, these discrepancies will be even bigger as it pertains to employability, depending on other factors such as gender, if you have a disability or health condition, and your level of education, which again, education, based on what I read, does not seem to affect whether or not you'll reach your creative potential, or does not seem to affect creative achievement. In fact, people are more or achieve more creatively outside of school than they do in school, but qualifications and education does seem to play a role in employability. Able-bodied individuals are 10 to 20% more likely to land a creative role than those with a disability or long-term health condition. Men from privileged backgrounds are 4.8 times more likely to secure work in creative occupations than working class women. Individuals with a degree or other higher education qualifications are 3 times more likely to land a job in a creative occupation than those qualified at high school level or below. Basically, everything that makes you already marginalized in society creates bigger discrepancies in your odds of being employed as a creative and your odds of upward mobility. We can't win. Just kidding. The lifestyle. Another thing that will make a difference in whether or not you'll be successful as a creative is whether or not you can handle the lifestyle. And it's this very thing, the lifestyle, that makes it difficult for women, people of color, individuals with disabilities to thrive in, pursue long term. I found a study that dives deep into this and explains the situation we're all in better than I ever could. And I love the title. I feel like it just captures and is such a good snapshot of the way it's sold versus how it actually is. The study's called Cool, Creative, and Egalitarian? Exploring gender in project-based new media work in Europe. I like the question mark. Cool, creative, and egalitarian? Yeah, right. The idea goes as follows. The creative world loves to brand itself as cool, free, flexible, meritocratic, egalitarian, but that's a f***ing illusion. First of all, people get jobs in creative industries and work on projects not because they won a fair competition. Okay, it's not like a fair, you're bidding on a project and the best bid or the highest bidder or the best project wins. That's not how it works. The only place where that may work is like if you're bidding for like a city contract, city construction contract. And if you live in Montreal or in many other cities in the world, you know that even that shit's corrupt. It's all about who you know. This study actually surveyed a bunch of freelance workers, and it showed, and they all said that informal networks, that's how they got work. And I saw this firsthand. If I take stock today, literally all the contracts I've ever had and the projects I worked on were thanks to my network or were as a result of my network. But at the end of the day, informal networking to get a contract is possibly the total opposite of a meritocracy. And it's this very thing, informality, that the study mentions as being a huge problem, especially for women, because, the way that society is set up, our hegemony of power and dollars for contracts and for projects will most likely be in the hands of people with and people with like to work with other people with. So this creates a boys club. She actually mentions this law I'd never heard of called Hansard's Law. And the law is basically that like the clubbier the atmosphere, the more it discriminates against women. Also, the creative world likes to like brand itself as like super flexible. That's also a fucking lie. She describes it, this researcher, academic, smart person, smart lady, describes it as a bulimic career. And it's so true. You don't really get to set the terms. The needs of the project fall above all else. And because the industry's so competitive, you have even less power, because if you try to negotiate the terms or say no, well, they can just go to someone else who will be more than happy to deliver the project and the product on their terms. So you go weeks without working, and then weeks where like you're working around the clock. And when I tell you around the clock, I used to work until 3-4 o'clock in the morning sometimes editing videos. I was just like a zombie in front of my computer because the deadlines are so ridiculous and everything's always last minute, and God forbid they plan in advance and give you enough time to deliver the project and have a life. That would most clients. It's not uncommon, and this happened to me just like last year. Someone reaches out to me on a Thursday for a project that's set to shoot on a Friday, and they need it delivered on like the Monday. And it's this very like illusory flexibility, this bulimic career that make it very difficult for women. Good luck being like, hey, like, let me just disappear for 3 weeks because I have this contract to deliver, and good luck with the kid. And another interesting thing she mentions is the fact that a lot of creative work has become project-based. And this is a window into the future of work in general. It creates something called the individualization of risk. So there's 2 career options for most creatives. It's either you're a project-based worker or you're employed. And a lot of us are project-based workers. And the fact that things are project-based means that, and I quote, individuals become entirely self-governing and must bear all the cost of all their training and professional development, of insurance, social security, sick pay, maternity leave, etc. They all also must take responsibility for finding future work and managing gaps in between projects. This study, the Cool, Creative, and Egalitarian, mentions another study that was done in 1999 that studied new media workers in New York. And on average, they spend 20 hours a week finding new work and or updating their skills and knowledge. You're a self-governing entity. You're your own little business. And a lot of us don't have the training to do that. And being able to handle and sustain the lifestyle will play a huge role in whether or not you can reach your full potential and be successful. Because in order to reach your full potential and be successful, well, you need to be doing this for a long time. And this lifestyle makes it really hard for most people to keep doing this in the long run. And so it's this very lifestyle that makes traditional employment, really attractive to a lot of creatives at some point in their lives. And as a result, these jobs in creative industries are highly coveted and extremely competitive. And as we saw earlier, education, qualification does seem to play a role in employability. Interestingly, this study showed that even new media project-based workers appear to be the most highly educated workers in Western economies. 93% had a degree, but funny enough, most were highly critical of their degrees. They all had to supplement their formal educations with training outside of school in softwares and different programs in order to be where they're at today. So again, is schooling what makes you successful? Is a degree what makes you successful as a creative? Probably not. But for some reason, many people who are employed as creatives, either employed or self-employed, happen to be educated. So I don't really know what to make of that. But this is what I discovered. So allow me to recap. I dropped out of college 10 years ago. Because I was like, I don't need this. And for a while, I didn't. And I probably may not. But I decided to go back anyways. I wanted to finish what I started. And I am thriving where I'm at. So because of the situation that I'm in, pushing 30, back in college, I've been thinking a lot about education and getting a degree as it relates to success and achievement in the creative world. And what I found based on my research is that there doesn't seem to be a relationship between schooling, education, a degree, and creative success or creative achievement, and or on whether you'll achieve your creative potential. Also, students seem to be more successful, creatively at least, outside of school than they are in school. And this seems to be because the values and the kind of environments that are needed in order to spur creativity aren't found in school and actually kind of are opposed to the way schools are currently structured. These issues can be mitigated from an educational perspective to the extent that the values that are needed in order to spur creativity and to help students tap into their creative potential are found in the academic establishments that you choose or choose to send your kids to or whatever. However, having a degree does seem to have an effect on employment, whether you're a project-based worker or traditionally employed. More people with degrees are employed in creative industries. But is it like a chicken or egg thing? I'm not sure. Many things other than school will affect whether or not you reach your potential. These can be person-related things and traits or environmental/contextual things and traits. Things like wealth, class, gender, race, and if you can handle and thrive in the lifestyle. So this brings me to my 2 cents. Here are my 2 cents. So the most important thing I've gathered from this little exploration I embarked on a couple days ago is that bottom line, you need to figure out what success means to you. What does a happy life mean to you? And what does creative success mean to you? If success for you means working in the industry, technical skills, networking, and yes, being able to handle the lifestyle can get you and will get you very far. Obviously, even further if you already have wealth and privilege. People will choose the guy who has a sick portfolio over the guy who went to school any day. If you have a portfolio and you went to school, great. But it's kind of, in my experience, it's kind of like nobody's asking you for your CV when you're going for a contract. They just want to see what you've done. Also, education is a lifelong process. And I don't think you need a degree to be educated, but you need to go out of your way to educate yourself to be educated. Now, if you're not looking to be a technical worker and you're looking to be more of a knowledge worker, this is where, those corporate jobs come in. Qualifications, I think, do matter. And the barrier to entry is higher because these jobs are just so coveted. While you might not think now that you would ever want to work for an agency, after a couple years of freelancing, a cushy job at an agency, even though you're working with a bunch of assholes, might be the move, might be something that is your definition of success. But again, because informal networks play such a huge role in our industry in getting contracts and getting work and getting ahead, you might be able to get ahead and get that cushy job without the degree and just off the strength of your portfolio. And heck, after my experience in the industry, I'm telling you, there are tons of people that neither have a degree and neither have a portfolio. What are they doing in those jobs? Who knows? You might just get hired because the guy wants to like, honestly. The bottom line is, either direction you choose to go in, it's valid, it's valued, it's highly needed. It's about knowing yourself and knowing your strengths. And there's this article that this guy wrote in ID magazine. I agree with the conclusion of his article, even though I don't agree with the reasons he came to that conclusion. He basically says that while you don't need to have a degree to work in the creative world, the creative world do need individuals who are formally educated in them. And this gets into more of a heady discussion. Art is a discourse and is part of a conversation that's happening in the world. And as artists and as creatives, the products we make, part of it involves responding, commenting, observing, critiquing, bringing our own 2 cents to the discussion and to the conversation that's happening in culture at the moment. It'll be very hard for you to thrive as a creative if you're not in tune to the conversation. What I've learned is that the way information trickles down, a lot of these issues and these ideas originate in academia. Academics set the agenda in so many ways for what people like you and me need to deal with. And also, it's our responsibility to do this because a lot of the times people put creatives and artists on a pedestal and they look to us for like direction and leadership. And what I've discovered through going back to school and having to read all this theory, a lot of these conversations are really inaccessible if you don't have the formal education and training to understand it, even from a pure like vocabulary standpoint. The words these people use to invent and describe these concepts are complicated. I have a difficulty as a 30-year-old woman in college understanding these words, how is someone who doesn't have a high school education going to understand these words and these concepts? So the way I look at it is that while you don't need a formal education to be a creative, to achieve your full potential as a creative, the creative industries and the artistic worlds do need creatives who are part of those conversations at root level and have the tools to deconstruct these concepts and communicate them to everyone else as they happen, and not when it's like too late, already watered down, distorted, misunderstood, and part of popular culture. Aren't you, as a creative, making a creative product, a campaign that's going out there to the masses, in a way better position to make a campaign that really brings something new to this, to the discussion of
the conversation,
inclusivity and gender, if you have the tools to understand the concept at a deep level, and if you understand it at a deep level, even though this might not be something that you can immediately find a way to monetize, like a technical skill. But this is why I think that the best art and the best creative products are made or come from teams that have a balance of both, a balance of people who are super technically skilled and have that hands-on, on the field knowledge, the doers, and a balance of people who approach problems and creativity and art from a more intellectual perspective, the like thinker type people, and they join forces and they create something together. My advice to you is to make the most of the situation you're in. Success is in the eye of the beholder. Create your own definition. Be true to you. Find your truth. Operate from a place of personal truth. Know yourself. That will set you up for success, creative success, more than anything else. If school is part of your success equation, go for it. If it's not, then that's fine too. I'm sure you can be successful anyways. I've seen it happen. People do it all the time. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was insightful. I hope this got you thinking. Add to the discussion. Let me know what your experience has been with education, if you're in the creative industry, and even if you're not. Like, did the degree give you anything in life? Did you make it without a degree? Like, tell me. I want to know all about it. Give me your 2 cents so we can have like a piggy bank of comments that equals more than 2 cents. Maybe it'll equal a dollar. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you didn't like this video, I hope you're that fly in my room so I can with the raid. Bonus footage. This shit really works, by the way. Like, I don't know if flies communicate, but the other day I fly with one of these things, with this thing, and then they all disappeared. So I think they talk to each other and they're like, yo, you know that girl in that building? Don't with her. She'll zap you. And now I don't have any flies anymore, except for the fly that came in today, but it was a different type of fly. Contact. Defense system. Attack.